Thank you. Can you share, please, the image?
I'm on it. I'll try. Let's see. There.
Yeah. So Dawa described pretty much the essence of the work of a spiritual school. Not only, one could say, not only the Golden Rosycross or the more modern Golden Rosycross, but all the other schools that are in manifestation right now or were manifested in the past. And basically, he was indeed mentioning that inner fire, and that inner fire is the starting point. And based on that, the goal is, of course, to awaken a different kind of consciousness, which is something very important, a very important part of this work. That state of consciousness, or that new state of consciousness, is a state of consciousness free from illusions, free from fear, and a state that is free, especially and mainly from selfishness, because that is actually our fundamental problem as humanity. Selfishness and the state of consciousness that follows that selfishness. So things are made always for ourselves, for our group, for what we believe as human beings in general. So a spiritual school has that task, helping everyone who has that wish to, based on that inner fire, to awaken that different consciousness, that other spiritual consciousness, living step by step in a path of transformation, all the consequences of that selfishness behind, and building a new state of life, building a different approach to life, with responsibility, with autonomy, but a different approach to life in general. So that new state of consciousness is also a very important key. And this image actually shows very clearly that what I was meaning with the selfish state of consciousness, or even egocentric state of consciousness, that our heart and our brain, they don't work in harmony. There isn't a unity between our heart and our brain, our heart sanctuary and our head sanctuary. Our heart works as a center of emotions that it expresses and also absorbs from the impressions of the world. And our brain is the thought machine, or the thought organ, basically. And there is much more to the brain, and there is much more to the heart, and that is the point. The heart has a very, very strong capacity of intelligence that we don't even come close to using, or very rarely we use that capacity of intelligence of the heart, because it is so entrapped with all the emotions. It is so entrapped with all the stimuli from the senses and from the world, the exchange with people and places, that absolutely gets caught, stuck in that emotional state. And the brain has also another side that goes way beyond those thinking cycles that are endless and that entrap us all the time. The brain has a capacity for intuition. And that might sound very strange. Wow, the brain. Yes, the brain. The brain has a capacity of understanding that what is implicit, understanding, comprehending that, for example, what is implicit in a poem, poetry, when we read something very deep, very profound, that speaks to us, that speaks to our heart, and the brain also understands something in between the lines. And every time we try to explain that with concrete words, then that understanding, that special understanding, disappears. It's like the essence of that poem, or it's gone. So there is a capacity, and in the heart and the brain, and whenever those two work together, there is a unity and not a separation anymore. And that separation is the separation of the egocentric mind or egocentric consciousness. And in the middle of those two, we see the lemniscat, which is, of course, the symbol of eternity, and meaning that it is through that eternity principle that we all carry within ourselves, that harmony, that integration can happen again, and that not only that integration happens again, that balance, but our life, our actions become based on that state of consciousness that is a new state of consciousness. But the starting point, like Dawa was mentioning earlier before, is that eternity principle that in the Golden Rosycross we call for the spirit spark in the heart. So it is not the emotional heart. That's very important. It is the energetic heart. It is a spiritual heart that we as human beings have as an heritage. It is to have, it's not even the right word, because it does not belong to us. It is actually the essence of who we truly are. That spiritual heart is the basis for any spiritual awakening of consciousness and work throughout a lifetime. So now we go to show you another image that is more about the method. And this is just a way of speaking about the method, you know, because even in the Golden Rosycross, we have different approaches to speak about this too. This is one of them. And in the different spiritual schools and philosophy, traditions, religions, all groups that were deeply devoted to a spiritual awakening and development, they have talked about this. Most of them bring the triangle, or the equilateral triangle, that is this triangle with the same sides. The sides have the same size. Different traditions bring that because that is the symbol for harmony. It's the symbol for building with the inner fire that points up, the aspiration for the divine that is somewhere above us and within us. So it is not outside of us. It's part or the essence of who we truly are. And we can count here Christianity, Freemasonry, we can mention Hinduism, or even Theosophy also mentions triangle or equilateral triangle. They use it for different meanings, but this what we are showing here to talk about the method is the triangle of Aquarius, which is the current age that we are living right now. It is the age of freedom, and it is the age of fraternity, and it is the age where human beings individually develop based on those powers that are in the atmosphere. They develop an inner change. It is possible to develop an inner change. Of course, not all of them are mature enough or are willing to really surrender to that process. But the Aquarian age is a topic in itself, and we won't go much into it. But that is triangle of Aquarius, or the Rosicrucian triangle as well. And as you see there, it is goodness in the bottom, truth and justice. And that is the triangle that every Rosicrucian, every member, every pupil of the School of the Golden Rosycross is busy with working on building within themselves. That's always the purpose of a spiritual school. It's whatever has to be built within ourselves. And then to manifest that outside of us. But first, everything, goodness, truth, and justice have to happen inside of us. And there is an element that is the most important element in that triangle, and that Dawa is going to go further. Please. That is the point or the dot in the middle of that triangle. That is the most important. It's the starting point of any change. That is the spirit spark in the heart, or the lotus flower, or the universal principle, or the singularity, or even the universal love. And based on that principle, every pupil, every candidate can build that inner triangle. And there we are going to talk about this method in very simple way in 3 different stages, as you can already see there, starting always by that point. And that point brings us to the first step, the first side of that triangle. That is to connect to that inner master. Connect to that source of power, to that source of light that is it's divine, it's eternal, it's from a nature that our selfishness cannot grasp. So whatever comes from that point won't bring us division, but will bring us unity, will bring us oneness. And there, from that point, that inner master, we have to recognize in that first step that there are no external master, therefore, that not the spiritual school of the Golden Rosycross, no rule, nothing that comes from outside of us can tell us which steps to give, which direction to take. That is always the inner master. It has to make sense for that inner master. The strength, the direction has to come from there. And based on that, we gain autonomy to recognize that it is our own consciousness that has to make the effort to change something. It has to be our own consciousness that is going to embrace that change. It's nothing or nobody else, not a group, not a school, that will do that for us. And that brings us to a very big responsibility. Responsibility because from that moment, we perceive stronger and stronger that within ourselves and also in others, and also in nature, and also in things and happenings around us, because that is present in everything. And we start recognizing that vibration, that power. And the more we connect to that, the more we understand that it is our own consciousness that has to surrender to that. And you see there that it is the goodness and a pure heart. So that first step has to do with the pure heart. It is building a pure heart. Are we going to feel emotions and everything? Yes. But above that, there is something much more holy, much more pure that is kept for our heart. That is the real capacity of our heart. And the heart that has become pure can really manifest goodness. That it's not a goodness based on my own wish of doing something, to my own group, based on my own pain, but it is a goodness that goes above those two sides that we find ourselves entrapped all the time. That is the pure heart, and that is immutable. From that step of the pure heart, we go to the arising, the awakening of that new consciousness, the spiritual consciousness. And it is exactly on that second step that for some reason we have come to a limit in our lives, that we recognize that selfishness, that egocentric consciousness or way of looking things cannot take us any further from that limit. We say in the school that it is the moment when the egocentric consciousness comes to a point of limit. And from that point on, it is a new state of consciousness that arises. A consciousness that is willing to dive within ourselves to find out what our entrapments really are, what our conditionings are, what our addictions are, because addictions related to overthinking or addictions to react always in the same way to certain people and certain situations. It is a moment when the truth, which is that second side of the triangle, arises. And that truth, it's not the truth of I have a truth and the other one has a different truth. It is a half truth. This truth is the truth that we find about ourselves. And that is absolutely the absolute truth. We are looking within with a different consciousness based on a pure heart. So that is, the purification of the sanctuary of the head. And together with the sanctuary of a pure heart, they already start making a balance. There is already an integration of heart and head. Does it mean that at some point this harmony can come? Yes. we are living here and there is a lot going on, and we don't know a half or 1/3 or a little bit even of all the entrapments that we have. Of course, we'll feel and experience disharmony. But the point is that we can always go back to that steady point and go back to that what has been built already, and that nobody can take away from us. And the disharmony goes less and less, because in cooperation comes the action, or the pure action, that it's the third step, the third side of that triangle, that is hands and justice. So it is the action, not the action that comes from trying to achieve something perfect, or trying to achieve something, a goal that we imagine is the goal of a spiritual path. It is actually the side that tells us no imitation. It's you and your own way of expressing that unity, heart, head, and hands. It is your own life, because your life is different from all the others. There is no model. There is nobody to imitate. We have the inner master. We have the truth that we are finding out, a consciousness that acts like a torch, that acts like a fire, showing us what we have to see. And from there, the action, or even non-action, or even letting things be, that can come, because that is action. That is what hands mean here in this triangle. It's justice. Justice can only be achieved from a pure heart and a clear mind that work together. So that is the triangle of every Rosicrucian. That is the method. And how does the school, just to finish this part, how does the school help pupils and members and candidates that are connected to it? The school offers, of course, services that are moments of reflection with music, moments of silence, meetings where we can all exchange. But above all, what the school offers is a field of power, that everybody having that same goal, that following that inner master, it is not for themselves. That process it releases a lot of energy, and that energy is love, and it is healing also, not only our own lives, but everything around us. Love and light don't belong to anything or anyone. That doesn't belong to the school. It doesn't belong to the pupils or to every candidate or each one of us. It doesn't belong to us, but it works through us. And when we go that process and we allow it to work through us, then the real goal of love, the real purpose of love, the Christ's love, is really achieved, because it goes through us to the whole of humanity. And that is something that when we are gathered in the school, in a conference, in a meeting, even like this one, we are speaking from that, and our hearts are also open so that can express through us. And so the Golden Rosycross as a school, it's a help. It is a tool that human beings who are longing can use, can be part of, and contribute with, because it is, like Dawa said, it is a community. And in a community, everybody is the same. Everybody go their own path, gives their own steps, but the goal is always the same. And together we can make that field and we can nourish each other. So Dawa, can you go the last slide, please? And that is the symbol. We won't go into it now, because it is also a lot to talk about the symbol in itself, but those are all, they have different meanings, but always for that inner work. And that symbol is there now, so you can see that triangle that we mentioned. That triangle is, we can say it is the like I was saying, the Rosicrucian triangle, the Aquarian triangle of goodness, truth, and justice, which is the goal of every candidate to a spiritual awakening, every pupil of the Golden Rosycross. And that circle there, we can also refer to as that field that I was just before mentioning, that love field that nourishes everyone who are really longing for that process of transformation. So, friends, in few words, I hope it wasn't too long. In few words, this is the goal and the method of a Rosicrucian. And the school, or every spiritual school, like the Golden Rosycross, has that task to help those who are wishing and willing to start on that path.